Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know we can do better than that. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yay! So it's so good to be here in this Sunday of a long weekend. I know, brave warriors here. Our souls are present here. You know, when most people keep posting pictures of nice beaches and trails, and But that's good because there's different opportunities in a long weekend. You can go out and enjoy the different places and nourish your soul through nature, or you can nourish your soul through being together here and studying and learning, and maybe making yourself a little bit better for the next day, right? And that's all we want all the time. So it is a pleasure to have here our friend Tiago again one more time. He's going to enlighten us with Emmanuel's take on the studies on Allan Kardec's works, and I know it's going to be a very interesting lecture, not only for us present here, but the spirits that are here today and everyone that's following us online through our website live webcast. And we're going to have the lecture, and right after the lecture we're going to have a few minutes for question and answers, and then we're going to have our passes. So we're going to start today with a passage from the book Our Daily Bread, followed by our initial prayer, as we usually do, by our friend Marcos D. Clay. So let me start with the passage, inspirational reading. In the future, no longer will a man teach his neighbor, or a man his brother, saying, "Know the Lord," because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. Paul to the Hebrews, chapter 8, item 11. So when humankind eventually engraves upon his own soul the luminous sections of the divine law, individuals will not reproach one another. A brother will not denounce a brother. Prisons will close their doors. Tribunals of justice will remain in silence. Cannons will be converted into plows. Armed soldiers will revert to tilling the soil. Hatred will be expelled from the world. Bayonets will put to rest. Machines will not hurl flames to ignite fires and death, but rather they will peacefully look after the progress of the planet. Justice shall be overtaken by love. The offspring of faith will not only be just, but also be good, and profoundly so. Prayer will be of happiness and praise, and the houses of worship will be consecrated to the sublime work of supreme fraternity. The preaching of the law will live in the deeds and thoughts of all, because the Lamb of God will have transformed the hearts of every individual into a temple of eternal light, wherein his divine kingdom will forever shine. So please, Marcos D. Clay.
So dear brothers and sisters, let us all close our eyes and elevate our thoughts to our Creator with our hearts full of gratefulness for one more day in our existence, for more that the challenges and the rocks in our paths make it hard for us to advance. The present opportunity and this present day is a true blessing for us. In this beautiful summer day, let's elevate our hearts and our minds. Imagine ourselves such as these little plants sticking the leaves as high as possible in direction of the sun, to absorb the lights, the energy necessary for their lives. So we, as still small universal beings, eternal spirits, must continue to elevate ourselves, our arms, our minds, our hearts to Jesus, the moral Son of humanity, the one who daily, without any second thoughts, unconditionally sends to every single one of us the energy, the strength, the help, his emissaries, our guardian angels, every single day, even without having ourselves acknowledging it. We thank dear Jesus for these blessings. We thank our guardian angels for the inspiration today to be here all together, to absorb a little bit more of the energies that we so much need. We also would like to ask the same blessings for those who were not able to join us this morning, for those who are watching us in their homes through the internet, and especially to our dear brother Tiago, responsible for the studies this morning. May he receive the necessary support. And for all the kids that are also part of our activities today, may they all receive the blessings and the support they need. Thank you, and so be it. Tiago, welcome again.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. It's good to repeat that Mark asked. I'm asking all of you again. In this long weekend, I am very grateful, and I believe we are very grateful to have you all here. And we believe that it means a lot for all of us to keep learning and to keep sharing, and how important it is for us to give one step ahead, starting to nurture ourselves with good examples. And today, I believe that we will see a good example of spiritual growth here. In fact, from now until December, we will be together with one spirit that is very important for the Spiritist movement. And this spirit is called Emmanuel. Emmanuel, through his own journey as a man, from the beginning of the Christianity, from meeting Jesus, until recently, while he was the spiritual mentor of the mediumistic work of Chico Xavier, he is a living example of spiritual growth, from struggle to regeneration to spiritual evolution. And I believe that we will learn a lot with him, especially because Emmanuel takes a great responsibility to develop and put in practice the works that were brought together by Allan Kardec and the basic books of the Spiritism, which are the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel according to Spiritism, and Heaven and Hell. And he will try to bring more clarity and development on the teachings that we have from those books, bringing a very daily life experience that we may take and put in practice in our lives in order to help us through our own journey of spiritual growth. The message this morning was from Emmanuel, from the book Our Daily Bread, which is one of the books that Emmanuel writes and develops lots of lessons from the gospel. And this is one of the missions from Emmanuel and Chico Xavier. And the passage that strikes me is from justice to goodness. And I believe that we all are in this journey from the law to the practice, from the intelligence to the morality, through justice to goodness. And I believe that throughout this next semester we will have a great opportunity to incorporate those lessons and to understand a little bit more. Especially because most of those works are still not in English. I think it will be a great opportunity for all of us to learn, to take a lot of lessons from that, and to spread this word. Because the responsibility that we have here is to spread that word, is to spread that message of the Spiritism, which is the recovery of the essence of Jesus' teachings for us. And today we have that opportunity to have the books and the experience from spirits like Emmanuel and from Chico Xavier to bring that essence back to us in order for us to live more fully those lessons. Well, I would like to start then a little bit before. I like to invite you for a journey in history. And that journey right now will start with Jesus himself, the Master. And the disciples used to ask Jesus why Jesus used to speak in parables all the time. We all remember Jesus spoke in parables. Jesus spoke in an allegoric way. And many didn't understand him. Even the disciples. Many of them didn't understand the essence and the meaning of some of his teachings. And Jesus answers the disciples, to you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. And why not? Probably we were there as well. And probably we didn't understand either. Because we were not ready to understand. We still didn't have information enough. We still didn't have morality enough developed in us. We were still very brute. We were still very raw. Many of us didn't accept even Jesus as someone as important as he is. So in Matthew, we see that Jesus tries to tell the disciples, I will give that information to you. But soon, many more will have that information as well. And Jesus told the disciples, you will indeed listen, but never understand. And you will indeed look, but never perceive. In fact, this is a prophecy from the prophet Isaiah. And Jesus needed to speak in parables as well to fulfill the prophecy. For these people's heart has grown dull, and their ears are hard of hearing, and they have shut their eyes, so they might not look with their eyes, and listen with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn, and I will heal them. In fact, Jesus comes in a very important time. He let go of his place of the spiritual governor of our planet, of the superior realms, to come down to us. They were not ready yet, to help us to be ready in the future. And he comes and he lives among us to help us to open our hearts, to open our eyes, to open our ears. And he knew that it would take a while, but he knew we would have the chance in the future, because he was, or he is, in charge of our evolution here on earth. Jesus was planting a seed. And of course, in this passage, he will explain some of the parables. And he will give the essence and he will give the meaning for the disciples. So they would take that essence and they would start to apply that in their lives and start to spread that word. And that seed, in fact, is, as we know from the Spirit's book, is the divine laws within us. And he was already 2,000 years ago helping to nurture those seeds inside our hearts. Before we go to the promised consoler, there is one passage of the Bible in the Acts of the Apostles that also talk about the project that Jesus had for us. Because Jesus brought his teachings in parables and of course throughout his own example. But he promised to bring the Spirit of truth, the consoler, to reveal what could not be revealed in that time. And the Spirit of truth, we know that it is not one spirit, but a pleiad of spirits that all around the globe came with very similar messages. And Allan Kardec had the opportunity to see those letters, to see those messages, to see those communications. And he understood that there was something very important there. So then Allan Kardec understands that the Spirit of truth is all those spirits that allowed by God, sent by Jesus, would fulfill also that prophecy from Jesus. I will send the Spirit of truth to you. The world could not receive that message in that time. We didn't have the science to understand. We didn't have a lot of knowledge. We didn't have a lot of content to use our minds, to use our intelligence. And our hearts were still hardened by our primitive lives. But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you all of what I have said. In fact, we are not learning anything new here. That is very interesting. We are being reminded of something. We are being reminded of an essence of the teachings of Jesus. And that passage from the Acts of the Apostles, it's a passage where Philip was sent from Afghanistan to Gaza. And in that road, he sees an Ethiopian king being taken together with some servants. And there was one servant, the eunuch servant. And the king was reading some passages and some passages of the Bible. Philip was very content and excited because he was just walking on a road and there was an Ethiopian king reading passages of the Bible. But he was intrigued and he looks to this eunuch and he asks his eunuch, "Do you understand what your king is reading to you? Do you understand those passages? Do you understand the meaning?" This is 2,000 years ago. And the eunuch answers, "How could I understand if someone doesn't explain it to me?" That was the question. How could I? So, even though Jesus brought his message, the disciples in that time were spreading the word, were explaining the life and the message and the examples of Christ, still many didn't have the chance to understand. They needed help. Allan Kardec understands that the Spirit of truth, the spirits that came to reveal the essence of Jesus' teachings, was the promised consoler. Still, many of us don't understand. Honestly, it was a hard lecture to give to you today because the words that Emmanuel brings to us They are very complex, and a few phrases have so much content that we need time. We need to study, we need to read, we need to let it sink in ourselves in order to one day incorporate those lessons. The Gospel according to Spiritism, Allan Kardec will say, in the same way that the Christ said, I have not come to destroy the law but to fulfill it, the Spiritism will say, I have not come to destroy the Christian law, but also to fulfill it. And not only to fulfill it, but also to develop the message of Christ, to complete it, and to explain what has been said in allegoric forms. We know that so much has been said as a codified message. And today we understand that so many of those passages are being understood in a different way. So many of the translations that we receive today have distortions as well. And in many ways the spirits, including Emmanuel, have the chance in their messages to recover the essence of those meanings. And we restore that clarity for us, because now we can understand. And because now we can understand, we have the responsibility to use our capacity, to use our intelligence, to use the morality that we acquired as well during those 2,000 years, and let go of those distortions that we also help to promote. And let go of all the destructive meaning that we also ingrained in us, because so many didn't want us to know, and in many ways we didn't want to know, and today we have the opportunity to do it again. Are we okay so far? Okay. And why am I talking about that? Why am I talking about Jesus promising the Consoler that would reveal everything? Why am I talking about the Spiritism that would actually come and reveal and develop and clarify Jesus' teachings? Because today, in our lifetime, we have the opportunity to see many spirits that came with the task, I dare to say with the mission, of bring even more clarity for us from the teachings of Jesus and the development of the Spiritism. Because one link for us might be missing sometimes. We study, we read, we come to the Spiritist Center. We are enlightened by those beautiful words. But when we leave, can we step out of here and understand clearly how to put those messages in practice, in our daily lives, in our attitudes, when we see someone, when we think about someone, whatever we are feeling today? Are we putting that in practice in a way that we are living the Christian message or not? I dare to say, poorly, from my side, there is a lot more to learn. There is a lot more to understand. Because still, there is so much prejudice in me. Still, there is so much prejudgment. Still, there are so many things that I am carrying for centuries that is hard to let go. But there's hope. Again, once more, there is hope. This Spirit, today we know him as Emmanuel. This Spirit, as a man, had an incredible journey. And as a Spirit, has a very important mission. I would like to invite you a little bit through his history as a man, throughout a couple of his incarnations, to help us to understand that in living the Christian message, we are able to be better, to help ourselves, and to help others. And that's what Emmanuel decides to do, opening up his own life as a spirit and opening up his struggles, his imperfections, his lost opportunities, to show us that we do lose opportunities many times. But also, he opens up to us and he shows his journey of regeneration, showing us that it's possible to change, and his journey of spiritual evolution, because he knows and he trusts, as Christ told us, that you are gods. We all are able to grow and to evolve spiritually. Emmanuel has at least 10 known incarnations from the 9th century before Christ until very recently in the beginning of the 20th century. Well, Chico Xavier revealed before he discarnated that Emmanuel is already reincarnated among us, and we might even know him one day, recognize him. But I chose to bring 3 incarnations of the Spirit Emmanuel. And that first incarnation that we decided to bring is because the senator in Rome, Publius Lentulus Cornelius, he had the chance to meet Jesus. He was a very important and influential man in the Roman Senate. And he had authority. Publius Lentulus Cornelius, together with Pontius Pilate, had the chance to make a choice to condemn Jesus or to free Jesus. And together with Pilate, Publius Lentulus decides to condemn Jesus. In his encounter with Jesus, described in a book called the Boa Nova, or the Good News, with the Spirit Humberto de Campos, Humberto de Campos describes the dialogue between Christ and Publius Lentulus, asking him, I'm not talking with the superficial man that decides to choose the social positions, the influence, the wealth, the public man. I'm talking about with the Spirit. And he makes a question, and he asks Publius Lentulus if he wanted to follow Jesus or if he wanted to follow the world. And in that time, Publius Lentulus decides to choose the world. And Jesus knew that a couple of millennia after, they would meet again and they would have the chance to be together. But Jesus waited probably around 1500 years until it happened. Publius Lentulus discarnates in the year 79 in Pompeii, when the volcano Vesuvius was exploding in the city of Pompeii. He had a chance to write a letter about Jesus to Caesar, not to Caesar, to the governor of the Judea in that time. This is a beautiful, already proved to be true letter describing physically and morally the person of Jesus in that time. It is a powerful letter. I invite you all to find that letter and read it. He describes how powerful and captivating Jesus' eyes were. But still, he chose the world. He chose to follow the Roman Empire. And he discarnates actually already understanding and following the Christian message, but it was too late. And it was too late because he reincarnates in the year 131 as a slave. His name was Nestorio. And he was already Christian in that time. He was a devoted follower of Christ. And he used to listen to John the Evangelist when he was in the streets in Ephesus talking about the life and the message of Christ. And in fact, in the end of his life, he takes over that message that came from John the Evangelist to Polycarpus. And then he himself, being considered disciple of those two important evangelists, because of his faith in Jesus already, he is condemned to death. And he is taken to the Circus Maximus in Rome. And he is one of the martyrs that when he's taken to be killed, he enters singing. Already converted, already faithful to Jesus, in his way to regeneration, he goes back to the spiritual world. And in between this next incarnation that I will show you, he has at least two more. And one of them, his name was Basilio. He was born in Cyprus in the year 233. And actually, his wife and his daughter died. And he had the chance to adopt a daughter that was abandoned. He gave the name of his daughter Livia. And according to historians on the Spiritism, she was one of the incarnations of Chico Xavier. And they are together since then, in different ways throughout the centuries. So, from the year 233 at least, we know that this relationship between Emmanuel and Chico Xavier has been established. And also, he was a priest in Lyon in the year 439, discarnating in the year 535, already as a man of religion, studying and sharing the knowledge about Jesus and his message. The next incarnation, it is well known, especially in Brazil, because Manuel da Nóbrega was a priest born in Portugal in the year 1517, 17 years after Brazil was discovered. And he was sent together with one expedition to colonize the country, to build cities, to open parishes, and to convert the natives to Christianity. He is very well known in Brazil because he was the founder of several cities, the most important of them, São Paulo, the biggest city in Latin America. Not only that, he founded one of the first cities in Brazil as well, called Salvador, where the first expeditors arrive in the country. And in fact, he understands in that moment that there was a mission. He sees that land, that nature, and that land of opportunities to spread the message of Jesus. And his real mission of spiritual ascension starts there, when, even though he was being sent to colonize and to convert the natives, he starts to try to understand their lives and to be together with those natives. Not only converting them, but learning from their customs, respecting their ways to live. So he was able to help the country, bringing the message and living that message of acceptance, of respect, of tolerance, and bringing the message of Christ. He baptizes the city, São Paulo, because he was devoted to Paul of Tarsus. And it is known as well that Paul of Tarsus was guiding the mission of Manuel da Nóbrega while he was in Brazil, colonizing the country, understanding that Brazil would be a very important pole of dissemination of the Spiritism in the future in the world.